Hello, my friend. I'm happy you are here today. Let me ask you something. Have you ever said a few words, and later you thought, why did I say that? Maybe you wanted to look strong. Maybe you wanted to look smart. Maybe you wanted to hide a small fear inside your heart. It happens to all of us. Sometimes someone corrects our English, and we feel a small fire inside, a fire of shame or anger or hurt. Sometimes a person gives us simple advice, but we feel like they are judging us. Sometimes we make a small mistake, and suddenly we feel weak, as if one mistake means we are not good enough. These feelings are real. These moments are common. And there is a quiet reason behind them. This reason is called ego. Ego is the part of us that wants to be right, the part that wants to look perfect, the part that wants to protect our heart even when we don't need protection. And here is something important. Ego is not bad, but sometimes ego makes life harder. It makes learning slower. It closes the door to connection, to kindness, to growth. So today, in this episode, we will talk about the ego problem. We will explore what ego is, why it becomes a problem, and how a softer, calmer mind can help you learn, speak, and live more freely. By the end of this episode, I hope you will understand ego in a simple way. I hope you will feel lighter in your heart. And I hope English feels less scary. Because when ego relaxes, learning becomes easier, and life becomes gentler. Let's begin. Let's talk about ego in a very simple way. Ego is the part of you that wants to feel safe. It wants to feel strong. It wants to feel important. Ego tries to protect your feelings, just like a small shield you carry inside yourself. But sometimes this small shield becomes too big. And when it becomes too big, it blocks the world. It blocks learning. It blocks connection. Think about this. Someone corrects your English. Maybe they say, it's not goed, it's went. Their words are simple, but you feel something heavy in your chest. You feel embarrassed. You feel small. Maybe you feel angry, even if that person only wants to help. This heavy feeling comes from ego. Or imagine this. A friend gives you advice. They say, maybe you can try this way. The words are kind, but inside you think, they think I'm wrong. They think I'm not good. Again, this is ego protecting your pride. Let me tell you a small story. There was a man learning English. He studied every day. He watched videos. He read books. But he never asked for help. He never accepted correction. When people tried to teach him, he said, I know. But he did not know. He was afraid to look weak. He was afraid to look like a beginner. So he stopped growing. His English stayed the same for years. The problem was not his brain. The problem was not his ability. The problem was ego. The voice that said, you must look smart. You cannot be wrong. But here is the truth. Being wrong is normal. Being a beginner is normal. Learning needs softness, not perfection. Ego tells us, protect yourself. But the heart says, open, learn, grow. So when we talk about ego, we are not talking about something evil. We are talking about something human. Something everyone has. Something we can understand and live with in a kinder, calmer way. Now that you know what ego is, let's talk about how ego changes our feelings, our thoughts, and our actions. Now let's look at how ego works inside us. Ego is quiet, but it can change the way we feel, the way we think, and the way we act. First, ego changes our feelings. When someone gives us feedback, ego can make the feedback feel like an attack. Even if the person is kind, ego whispers, they don't respect you. They don't think you are good. And suddenly, a small comment feels like a big wound. Ego also makes small mistakes feel huge. If we say one wrong word in English, ego tells us, everyone saw it. Everyone thinks you are bad at this. But this is not true. People forget fast. People understand. People make mistakes too. Next, ego changes our thoughts. Ego makes us believe we must be right all the time. Even when we are wrong, ego tries to protect our pride. It says, don't listen, don't learn. Just defend yourself. And when we defend ourselves too much, our mind becomes closed. A closed mind cannot grow. A closed mind cannot learn. Ego also creates stories inside our head. For example, someone doesn't answer your message. Ego says, they don't care about you. But maybe they are busy. Maybe they are tired. Maybe they didn't see your message. Ego makes simple things look personal, even when they are not personal at all. And finally, ego changes our actions. When ego feels hurt, we avoid new situations. We avoid speaking. We avoid trying. We avoid being a beginner. We start to choose comfort instead of growth. Let me share a short story. There was a woman who wanted to speak English well. One day she tried to speak, and someone laughed a little. The laugh was not cruel. It was just a small laugh. But ego heard it like a thunder. Ego said, "Stop, be quiet, stay safe." So she stopped speaking English. Not for one day, not for 1 week, but for years. She wanted to travel. She wanted to meet new people. She wanted to have a bigger life. But ego was scared, and ego tried to protect her by making her small. This happens to many of us. Ego protects, but ego also limits. It limits our joy. It limits our courage. It limits our voice. But I want you to know something important. You can change this. Not by fighting your ego, but by understanding it. When you understand your ego, you can talk to it gently. You can say, "It's okay. I don't need to be perfect. I just need to try." And slowly, ego becomes softer. And when ego becomes softer, your life becomes more open. Now let's move to something very helpful. How to live with less ego, so your mind can be calm, your learning can be free, and your voice can be strong. Now let's talk about something very important. How to live with less ego and more peace in your heart. Having less ego does not mean being weak. It means being open. It means being free. It means choosing growth instead of fear. Let's explore a few simple ways to do that. First, try to pause before you react. When someone says something you don't like, or when you feel a little angry inside, take one slow breath. A single breath can change everything. Then ask yourself, am I protecting the truth, or am I protecting my ego? This question helps you see clearly. It helps you choose wisdom, not pride. Next, try to learn instead of win. You don't have to win every moment. You don't have to prove anything. When someone explains something to you, you can simply listen. You can say, "Thank you, I didn't know that." This simple sentence opens the door to growth. It shows strength, not weakness. A person who can learn is more powerful than a person who must always be right. Another helpful idea is to be a beginner again. A beginner is someone who is starting something new. A beginner is not bad. A beginner is free to try, free to make mistakes, free to grow. Imagine a small child learning to walk. They fall many times. But they smile, they stand, they try again. This is the spirit we all need. This is the spirit that ego hides from us. When you allow yourself to be a beginner, your world becomes bigger. Let me share a small story. There was a man who wanted to practice English, but he felt shy for many years. One day, he went to a coffee shop and decided to try one more time. His hands were shaking a little, and his voice was soft, but he said his order in English. The barista smiled and understood him. In that moment, the man felt something warm inside. He felt hope. He felt alive. He felt proud. He saw that one small step can change the whole day. When ego steps back, life steps forward. Another important step is this: don't take everything personally. Sometimes people speak fast. Sometimes people sound cold. Sometimes people forget to say thank you. But many things are not about you. People have their own problems, their own stress, their own storms inside. Ego tells us they don't respect you, but often they are simply busy or tired. When you stop taking things personally, your heart becomes lighter. And finally, talk to yourself with kindness. Say to yourself, I can learn. I can try. I don't need to be perfect. When you speak softly to yourself, ego becomes calm. And when ego becomes calm, your mind becomes open. You can listen better. You can speak better. You can grow without fear. Living with less ego is not something you do in one day. It's a gentle path, a slow journey. But every small step makes your life softer, your relationships deeper, and your learning easier. Now let's bring all these ideas together as we move toward the conclusion of this episode. We have talked a lot today, and now it is time to bring everything together in a simple and gentle way. Ego is a part of all of us. It wants to protect us. It wants to keep us safe. But sometimes ego makes life harder. It makes learning slower. It makes our heart close when we need it to open. You learned that ego becomes a problem when it controls our feelings, our thoughts, and our actions. It makes small mistakes feel big. It makes simple comments feel personal. It makes us afraid to try, afraid to speak, afraid to be a beginner. But you also learned that you can live with less ego by choosing simple, gentle actions. One breath before you react. Listening instead of fighting. Learning instead of winning. Allowing yourself to be a beginner again. Seeing that not everything in life is about you. And speaking to yourself with soft, kind words. These small choices create a big change. They help your mind relax. They help your heart grow. And they help your English become free, light, and natural. Before we end today, I want to leave you with one small message. You don't need to be perfect. You don't need to know everything. You only need the courage to stay open and to try again. So today, just notice one moment when your ego speaks. You don't have to change it yet. Just notice it. Seeing it is the first step to a calmer mind and a bigger life. Thank you for being here with me. Thank you for listening with an open heart. I'm proud of you for learning slowly, gently, and bravely. I hope you carry today's idea into your day and into your life. And I will see you in the next episode.